Oh man, we're back on the title screen and everything looks different. Why? Could that be because... we're now GBA enhanced? Indeed it does. So yes, Shantae does actually work with the Game Boy Advance. Well, I mean, Game Boy Color games did, but it does actually change. It was developed late enough in the Game Boy Color's life that they were able to change the sprite work a bit for this version of the game if it was put into a Game Boy Advance. Now, the sprite work is a bit more detailed, and I like it for that. However, to be completely honest, I don't actually like the color palette they use for this version. I much prefer the Game Boy Colors. It's kind of like the Super Mario Advance series in that the sprite work is good, but the colors are washed out, and as such, it looks a little bit iffy, and I don't care for it. Also, man, they kind of spoiled the fact that that mysterious genie was actually risky because the town's icon is just a Tinkerbat. Anyway, though, yes, I am going to be going back to the Game Boy Color version because I prefer that one. But first, before we do that, we do have to go to the Advanced Genies building. So, when you have the game slotted into a Game Boy Advance, this girl will actually give you the time of day. Unfortunately, just that alone isn't enough to get the secret here. You also need to pay 500 gems. She tells you down, up, up, which honestly kind of feels like a ripoff. I mean, it is dissimilar to the other transformations in that you have to press 3 buttons instead of 2, but man, I could have figured that one out by trial and error. That being said, though, we do get a secret transformation, which does work in the Game Boy Color version, don't worry about that. And it's a Tinkerbat transformation, which is really good. Not only is it extremely goofy, it actually works as a sort of replacement for 3 out of our 4 transformations. It can climb walls, and also it moves like the monkey. It can climb backgrounds like the spider. And not only that, you can actually ram things, like the elephants. Now, that one's a little more complex. Not by much, it's not a huge deal, but you have to press down B, whereas the elephant is just, you press B to attack. The only thing it can't replace is Harpy. It can't fly, but the other nice thing is, if you haven't found any of the other talisman, it also just starts with an attack, which is really nice. So, yeah, I'm going to be using the Tinkerbat transformation a lot, because it's multi-purpose. So, time for cutting. Ooh, gross. So, yeah, on top of this dead bug is the spider venom, which allows the spider to attack. More useful than the elephant's attack, but I don't think I ever used it. Because at this point, I'm almost done fighting the birdmen, which are the only enemies which I'd be really worried about. But I'm pretty sure Spider's attack is ranged. I think it spits venom. Again, I never used it, so I don't know its range for sure, if I'm to be completely honest. Unprofessional, I know, but that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you just don't use a thing. Anyway, I'm also going to be collecting the fireflies I missed, so expect a lot of in-episode cutting. That's in the non-com version as well, though for the most part I will be cutting out a lot of backtracking segments because, why bother? That being said, I should also show this off because up here we have this. We heard about that earlier, and it doesn't have much use for us now, but, it's good to know where that is. It might come in useful. Oh, and of course, those horrible Eldritch Abomination fly elephant things. Yeah, we've seen those here and there when jumping too high Shantae, but now that we can fly, you can figure out that those guys are just meant as obstacles for Harpy Shantae. Anyway, though, yes, cutting time. God, I love this animation so much. Alright, so let's climb this here wall. We could have done this once we got the spider, but, you know, it's easier now because we can jump up the wall and oh my god, that was lucky. Ugh, the frickin' Naga. Okay, so let's get out of here before we get sonicked to death. And yeah, we're just gonna go the safe way down and whoop. We apparently can't ground ourselves like that. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, onward we go. There's a thing up here in the desert to the left of the Naga wasteland. So, yeah, gonna grab that. This is the men's desert, because we're now heading towards the labyrinth. And here's a warp squid. Yep, it's all the way on the bottom floor in the room you knock over the stalactites with the elephant. So, there's that. And so we get the harpy talons, all the way back in Scarecrow Fields. So anyway, back to cutting for future me, and back to Fire Emblem Heroes for present me. And we got a heart holder. You can get this with a spider, but, you know, I wasn't really by here when I had the spider, so harpy it is. And this warp squid's fairly early on in this labyrinth, so thank goodness for that. You don't have to do much backtracking. And hey, the spider's helpful here, so there's that. That's always appreciated. And so we get this firefly that's been taunting us this entire time. This firefly is easy to get, but boy, was my timing not good for it. So this one doesn't take too long to get to, but once you're in the slide room, you can transform into the harpy and just go down normally. But there is a thing partway up here. See? Right here. Can't get that with the spider or the monkey. But you can get it with the harpy. And of course, like I've said, be careful climbing back up because the harpy is not great with tight spaces, which is why I didn't even bother trying to fly back up, because I just end up getting myself hurt and or killed. Oh man, I hate this area, because see, there's a firefly right here. You know, that doesn't seem too bad, right? Well, guess what? It's daytime, and there's a second firefly not far from here. So, I'm gonna go to where it is. So this little alcove right here is where I had to wait, because at night, the firefly appears right here. That was annoying. But at least we can move on now. You don't have to wait the amount of time I did. So, you might remember that, this was about the point at which we reached the zombie caravan. Except it's not here now. Instead, we have this new area that we've never been to before. This is Archer Forest, named after these enemies that are going to try to shoot you a whole lot. I don't really bother with them, so they're not a huge deal, but it's night and I'd really rather not take them on anyway. That right there is rude though. There's a whole lot of slidey platforms that will lead you right into a pit, so honestly, float muffins aren't a bad idea here. So yeah, got the battering ram right there. That is the replacement for the elephant that the Tinkerbat gets. And here we have this weirdo. Okay. So there's your hints. We have to dance, and we also have to do it under the effects of this Twin Mint. So once you do this, just do any transformation dance. And then he just bolos himself to death. Well, goodbye, weird puppet guy. I don't know why you existed, but whatever. I'm glad you just rocketed up into spikes with your weird rocket butt. The enemies that guard heart holders in this game are frickin' weird, man. Or just like the items in general, because I think Lightning Rod guy was a talisman, right? He guarded a talisman. Either way, strange designs. So, here we have this big old wall. There is a pit down there, so if you think you can just jump down, then no, you can't. You will die. Try to exercise some safety first strategy and not just leap blindly into a pit. And hey, what do you know? I got lucky, and it's still night, so I could get that firefly. Oh man, there are a lot of archers here. I'm trying to avoid you, and you're making it so difficult. Alright, and we're done with Archer Forest. It's possible to never see that area. Unless, of course, you go the wrong way to Mount Pointy, which is always possible. Especially since one of the characters in the game tells you to go east. For once, the people who can't distinguish east from west actually have an advantage. Go east? Okay, I'll go left. Hey, what do you know? That worked. Alright, so, of course, it turned day partway through this, and the firefly is right there. Would have been right there if it were nighttime. God, do I wish that this were a game with some sort of dance that changes the time of day. We can get our final heart holder at least. We have that, but once we go back down, then I have to play the waiting game, or I did. Neither present me nor you have to sit and wait for it to turn to night again to collect this. The final firefly. We have now been around the world, made the entire loop. Well, we didn't do it end to end because I didn't go back to Bandit Town, but whatever. I went from Mount Pointy to Mount Pointy, it's fine. So now, gonna head on back to Watertown. Because of course, it wouldn't be a complete set of items without the fighter gear. So let's go on down to the item shop. Unfortunately though, we can't buy all of it in one go. Gotta buy the cuffs first, then I can get the tiara, and then it's complete. I'll show these off later, but not in this episode. But these are actually really good items, and I like them. That being said though, a quick note about money grinding. I did end up going back and doing the gambling minigame. You can't actually get money if you're behind. Like, if you quit and leave early when you're behind your opponents, then you don't get any money for that. Anyway, yes, this is all you get for collecting all the fireflies. It's a dance that just heals you. It costs money, of course, but, you know, you do have healing everywhere now, which is especially useful since in a moment we won't have any use for gems. That being said, though, not very useful because if you're in the middle of danger, then it's not helpful at all because it'll take too long for you to dance. So, it's only useful if you forgot to buy any potions and you have downtime, so that is to say, not very. I guess I could have showed it off there, but I was about to do a second money grinding session anyway. But yeah. The other thing is, if you tie, you can still get a payout provided you started the tie, like you were there before your opponents. That being said, though, I definitely had a lot more bad luck here than I did when I showed it off. Nonetheless, I'm still absolutely positive it took me less time than it would have if I'd done the dancing minigame instead. I had some annoyances, but I still managed to do it quickly. So, with that being done, all we have to do now is go back to Scuttletown and insert the final 4 squids. Unfortunately, it's really not a useful warp since, you know, it's the last time I'll ever need to go to Scuttletown, but hey, at least it's available. You know what's weird about the first area in the game? It's the least fun one because there's just inexplicably a ceiling here. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. I don't get it either. And there we go. That was the last cut of the game, or the LP rather, because it's me doing that, not the game. Unfortunately, the game does not allow you to just skip backtracking like that. So, let's go give away these final warp squids. Giveaway is kind of a weird word in this context, huh? Also, I did say that was the final cut, so I guess in order to make myself not a liar, I have to sit through the entire thing. Gotta see every warp squid enter an alcove. I do not know why they didn't just let you put them in all at once. And we get possibly the easiest dance to remember. Too bad we'll never need it. Alright, well, we won't really need to do that now, will we? So, let's go on over to the save room. Wherever that is. There we go. This place should really have signs like some of the other towns. I think that helps. So, next time on Shantae, now that we've fully powered up, it's time to go and take on Risky. Wherever she is, and however we'll get to her. We don't know any of those things yet.